Mystic Life Stories wishes you a peaceful, joyful day as you sit back and enjoy today's story with us. In the shadow of Willow Creek's ancient oaks, where the wind carries secrets older than the town itself, a small chapel stood silent under a gray October sky. St. Anthony's Chapel, its weathered stones steeped in history, was no stranger to grief, but nothing could prepare its congregation for what was about to unfold. Rachel, a young widow with eyes heavy from tears, clutched her 2-year-old daughter, Emily, as they faced the polished oak coffin at the altar. The air grew thick, the mourner's whispers fading, when Emily's tiny voice pierced the stillness, her finger trembling toward the casket. "Daddy's trapped inside. He's scared." In that frozen moment, as the crowd held its breath, a single question hung like a specter over the town. What if the dead weren't truly gone? The pews of St. Anthony's Chapel creaked under the weight of mourners, their faces a mosaic of pity and unease, as the organ's mournful notes echoed through the rafters of the old church in Willow Creek. Rachel stood at the front, her trembling hands clutching Emily, her 2-year-old daughter, whose tear-streaked cheeks glistened in the dim candlelight. The coffin, a gleaming oak monument to her husband David's untimely death, loomed before them, its presence suffocating. Emily's small body shook with sobs, her tiny hand pointing insistently at the casket as she cried, "Daddy! Daddy!" Her voice, sharp and desperate, cut through the solemn air like a blade. Rachel tried to hush her, whispering soothing words, but Emily's cries grew louder, more frantic. "Daddy's trapped inside. He's scared," she wailed, her wide eyes fixed on the coffin as if she could see through its polished surface. The congregation froze, their murmurs dying into a chilling silence. Eyes darted between the child and the casket, some filled with fear, others with skepticism. Rachel's heart pounded, her grief momentarily eclipsed by a gnawing unease. Tucked in her coat pocket, the anonymous letter she'd received that morning burned against her fingertips. Don't trust his death. Old Mrs. Agnes, the town's keeper of folklore, leaned forward in her pew, her weathered hands gripping her cane. "Children see what we've forgotten how to," she muttered, her voice low but carrying the weight of Willow Creek's whispered legends. Tales of restless spirits and curses buried beneath the town's roots. As the wind howled outside, rattling the stained glass windows, a shadow seemed to settle over the chapel, and Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that her daughter's words were more than childish imagination. What if Emily was right? What if David was still out there somehow, calling to them from beyond the grave? The heavy oak doors of St. Anthony's Chapel groaned as Victor, David's cousin, slipped into the sanctuary, his polished shoes clicking against the stone floor. Dressed in a tailored black suit, he wore a mask of somber condolence, but his sharp eyes betrayed a glint of calculation. He approached Rachel, offering a stiff embrace, his words dripping with rehearsed sympathy. "I'm here for you, Rachel," he said, his voice smooth as oil. "David would have wanted us to stick together." But Rachel, still reeling from Emily's outburst, felt a chill at his touch, her instincts prickling with distrust. Victor wasted no time steering the conversation to practical matters. "David left behind some debts, you know," he said, his tone casual but pointed as he glanced toward the coffin. "That house on Maple Street, it's a burden now. Sell it quick, Rachel, before it drags you under." His urgency felt like a vulture circling, and Rachel's grip on Emily tightened. The little girl, still trembling, clung to her mother's neck and whispered, "Daddy's crying. He's calling me." Her words sent a ripple of unease through the nearby mourners, their hushed conversations faltering. Mrs. Agnes, seated nearby, narrowed her eyes at Victor, her gnarled fingers tapping her cane. "That child's got the sight," she murmured to a neighbor, her voice thick with the weight of old stories. Willow Creek's got secrets, and the young ones always see them first. Rachel overheard, her mind flashing to the mysterious letter and a half-forgotten memory. David mentioning a family heirloom, a silver ring etched with strange symbols that Victor had once demanded with unsettling intensity. She'd found it that morning, tucked in David's jacket, its cold metal now hidden in her pocket. Why had Victor wanted it so badly? And why did Emily's pleas feel like they were pulling at a thread that could unravel everything? As the organ played on, Victor's gaze flickered to Emily, a shadow of irritation crossing his face. "She's just upset," he said dismissively, but his voice carried an edge that made Rachel's stomach twist. Outside, the wind howled louder, and in the quiet of the chapel, a faint, unplaceable sound, like a muffled sob, seemed to echo from the direction of the coffin. The mourners shifted uneasily, and Rachel's heart raced. Was it her imagination, or was something or someone trying to break through? The air in St. Anthony's Chapel grew colder, the flickering candles casting long, wavering shadows across the stone walls. Rachel's gaze darted between Emily, still trembling and muttering about her father, and the coffin that seemed to loom larger with every passing second. Then it came, a faint but unmistakable cock, cock, from inside the oak casket. The sound was soft, like a hesitant knock, but it sliced through the silence like a thunderclap. Gasps rippled through the congregation, and a woman in the back row clutched her rosary, whispering a prayer. Rachel's knees buckled, her breath catching as she stared at the coffin, her mind screaming that it couldn't be possible. Victor shot to his feet, his face pale but his voice sharp. "It's nothing," he barked, stepping toward the altar with an authority that felt forced. "Just the wood settling. Old coffins do that in the cold. No one's opening it." His eyes swept the room, daring anyone to challenge him, but they lingered longest on Rachel, carrying a warning that made her skin crawl. Emily, undeterred, tugged at her mother's sleeve, her voice rising in a desperate plea. "Daddy's knocking, Mommy! He wants out!" The mourners were divided. Some whispered about ghosts and the old Willow Creek curse, while others exchanged skeptical glances, attributing the sound to the wind rattling the chapel's ancient frame. But Rachel's doubt was crumbling. She remembered the anonymous letter, the strange scratches she'd noticed on the coffin's edge when she'd brushed past it earlier, and the way Victor's hands had twitched when Emily spoke of David's cries. Her hand slipped into her pocket, fingers brushing the cold silver ring, its etched symbols almost pulsing under her touch. Tom, David's oldest friend, leaned close, his face grim. "Rachel, I saw Victor near your house the night before David passed," he whispered, his voice low to avoid Victor's notice. "He was holding a small vial, green liquid, looked suspicious as hell." Rachel's pulse quickened, her mind racing to piece together the fragments, the letter, the ring, Victor's insistence on selling the house, and now this. She nodded to Tom, her resolve hardening. "Keep an eye on him," she murmured, her eyes flicking to the coffin. The knocking came again, fainter this time, but undeniable. The congregation held its breath, and Rachel knew she couldn't wait any longer. Whatever Victor was hiding, it was tied to that coffin, and she was going to find out what. The chapel's air grew thick with tension, the faint echo of the second knock still lingering like a ghost among the pews. Rachel's heart thundered as she stepped toward the coffin, her hands trembling but resolute. The mourners watched, some leaning forward, others shrinking back, as if the truth might be too much to bear. Victor's voice cracked like a whip. "Rachel, don't you dare! You'll desecrate his memory!" But his words faltered under the weight of Emily's piercing cry. "Daddy's alive, Mommy. He's alive!" The child's conviction sent a shiver through the crowd, and even the skeptics began to waver. Tom blocked Victor's path, his broad shoulders squared. "Let her do this, Vic," he said, his tone low but unyielding. Rachel's fingers brushed the coffin's lid, her breath hitching as she noticed fresh scratches near the latch, as if someone, or something, had clawed at it from the inside. Her mind flashed to the anonymous letter, the vial Tom had seen, and the silver ring burning a hole in her pocket. She turned to Mrs. Agnes, who nodded solemnly, her eyes glinting with the weight of Willow Creek's buried secrets. "The truth's in there, child," the old woman whispered. "Open it." Before Rachel could act, the chapel doors burst open, and Dr. Esteban, the town's forensic doctor, stumbled in, his coat dusted with rain and his face ashen. "Stop the funeral!" he shouted, clutching a crumpled file. "The death certificate! It's a fraud! No doctor in the county signed it, and the vitals, they don't add up!" The room erupted in gasps, and Victor's composure shattered, his hands clenching into fists. Rachel's eyes locked on him, her suspicion now a blazing certainty. Under the crowd's mounting pressure, Victor's facade crumbled. "It was an accident," he blurted, sweat beading on his brow. "I gave David a sedative just to knock him out, to get him out of the way so I could take the house and that damned ring. I didn't know it had put him in a coma." His voice broke, revealing a mix of guilt and panic. He'd thought David was dead, rushed the burial to cover his tracks, never imagining he'd buried his cousin alive. The congregation recoiled, some shouting in outrage, others weeping. Rachel, tears streaming down her face, threw open the coffin's lid with Tom's help. There lay David, pale, motionless, but his chest rising faintly with shallow breaths. "David!" Rachel sobbed, falling to her knees as Emily scrambled forward, clutching her father's hand. "Daddy, wake up!" the girl cried. The chapel fell silent, the weight of the miracle sinking in. David was alive, and the truth had clawed its way out of the grave, just as Emily had known it would. The chapel erupted into chaos as David's faint breaths became the heartbeat of hope for Willow Creek. Rachel, tears streaming down her face, cradled Emily close as Tom and Dr. Esteban rushed to David's side, shouting for someone to call an ambulance. The mourners, still reeling from the revelation, parted to make way for Sheriff Dawson, who stormed in with 2 deputies, his face grim. "Victor, you're done," he growled, slapping handcuffs on the trembling man. Victor's protests dissolved into incoherent pleas as he was dragged from the chapel, the weight of his betrayal etched into every horrified stare. Paramedics from Fairfield County Medical Center arrived, their equipment clattering as they worked to stabilize David. His pulse was weak, his body chilled from the sedative's grip, but he was alive, a miracle born of a child's unwavering faith. Emily clung to her mother, her small voice steady now. "Daddy's not crying anymore." Rachel kissed her daughter's forehead, her heart swelling with gratitude for the little girl who'd seen what no one else could. As David was wheeled out on a stretcher, his fingers twitched, reaching for his family. A silent promise of reunion. In the days that followed, Rachel uncovered more of Victor's treachery. Tom helped her find David's hidden journal, revealing Victor's obsession with the silver ring, a relic tied to a forgotten vault beneath Willow Creek, said to hold an ancient book of the town's secrets. With Mrs. Agnes's guidance, Rachel ventured to the old cemetery, where she found the vault hidden beneath a weathered gravestone. Inside, no jewels or gold awaited, but a leather-bound tome chronicling Willow Creek's history of betrayal and redemption, guarded by David's ancestors. Rachel vowed to protect it, keeping the town's legacy safe for Emily's generation. Victor faced justice swiftly. Evidence of his past scams surfaced, sealing his fate. 25 years behind bars for attempted murder and fraud. David, recovering in the hospital, held Rachel and Emily close, their family whole again under the golden light of a new dawn. Willow Creek, once shadowed by whispers of curses, buzzed with renewed hope, its people forever changed by the miracle at St. Anthony's Chapel. Ket Thuk. As the sun rose over Maple Street, Rachel stood on the porch of their home, Emily giggling at her side, David's arm around them both. The silver ring gleamed on Rachel's finger, a symbol of their unbreakable bond and the truth that refused to stay buried. In Willow Creek, where secrets once festered, love and faith had triumphed, proving that even in the darkest moments, a child's heart can light the way. Did this chilling tale of mystery, betrayal, and redemption keep you on the edge of your seat? There's more where that came from. Subscribe to our channel for gripping stories, heart-pounding twists, and the secrets that lurk in the shadows of small towns like Willow Creek. Hit that follow button, turn on notifications, and join us for the next unforgettable journey. Because the truth is always waiting to be uncovered.